It was a war that tore a nation in two, a conflict over the very soul of a country, testing whether a government of the people, by the people, for the people, could long endure. We know the outcome. A fractured nation was reunited. But what if the defining battle of the war had gone the other way? What if the Confederacy had achieved the victory it desperately needed? What if the South had won the Civil War? This is History Reimagined. Welcome. The American Civil War, a bloody and brutal conflict that defined a nation. From the first shots at Fort Sumter to the surrender at Appomattox, the struggle to preserve the Union was a long and uncertain one. But among the countless battles, one stands out as the ultimate turning point: Gettysburg. For 3 sweltering days in July 1863, the fate of the United States hung in the balance. The Confederacy, led by the legendary General Robert E. Lee, launched its final, desperate invasion of the North. If Lee could win a decisive victory on Union soil, he could demoralize the North, force a negotiated peace, and secure a Confederate nation. But history tells us he failed. The Union won. But what if history had taken a different turn? What if a single change, a single decision, had handed victory to the South? What if the Confederacy had won the Battle of Gettysburg? By the summer of 1863, the American Civil War was entering its third bloody year. The spring of 1863 was a high point for the Confederacy. They had just defeated the Union at the Battle of Chancellorsville, but that victory came at a terrible cost. Robert E. Lee's most trusted commander, the brilliant and aggressive General Stonewall Jackson, was accidentally killed by his own men. Jackson was known for his relentless pursuit of the enemy and his ability to see and seize opportunities in the chaos of battle. At Gettysburg, his absence was keenly felt. On the first day of the battle, the Confederates drove the Union forces back through the town. Lee's new corps commander, Richard Ewell, was given a critical order: to attack the Union-occupied high ground on Cemetery Hill, if practicable. Ewell, a more cautious man than Jackson, hesitated. He let the moment pass. That hill would become the unbreakable center of the Union's defense. But in our timeline, Stonewall Jackson is alive. He is in command. A living Jackson would not have hesitated. He would have seen the opportunity and taken it, capturing the high ground before the rest of the Union Army could arrive. With the strategic high ground secured on day one, the entire course of the battle is altered. The Union Army is now forced to fight uphill, trying to retake what they have lost. The result is a crushing, humiliating defeat. News of the disaster at Gettysburg would have sent shockwaves across the North. Morale would have plummeted. The call for a negotiated peace, already strong, would have become a deafening roar. In our timeline, the Union victory at Vicksburg, which cut the Confederacy in half, came just one day after Gettysburg, buoying Lincoln and the North. In this new reality, Vicksburg's success is overshadowed by the cataclysmic defeat in Pennsylvania. The war would have continued, but it would have been politically untenable for Abraham Lincoln. The 1864 presidential election is approaching. In our history, General William Tecumseh Sherman's capture of Atlanta in the fall of that year sealed Lincoln's re-election. But in this timeline, with no major victories to point to, Lincoln loses. The presidency falls to a Peace Democrat candidate. The new president's platform is simple: end the war. The first item on the agenda would be to sit down with Confederate leadership and negotiate an end to the conflict. A peace treaty would be signed, and the Confederate States of America would be recognized as an independent nation. The Union is dissolved. The two Americas are born. What would these two nations look like? The United States of America, a truncated, but still industrializing power, would be forced to look inward. Its focus would shift to developing its remaining territory and its economy. Without the burden of the South, it would likely continue its path of industrialization. However, the American dream of a single, unified nation would be gone, replaced by the grim reality of two separate, and deeply unequal, countries. The Confederacy, built on slavery and agriculture, declares independence. Richmond becomes its proud capital. Across the South, Confederate flags fly over courthouses, plantations, and government halls. In Europe, Britain and France welcome the Confederacy as a new trading partner. Southern cotton flows across the Atlantic. Diplomats in London and Paris shake hands with Confederate envoys, strengthening international ties. But over time, cracks appear. The North, rich in factories, railroads, and industry, surges ahead into the modern age. Cities like New York, Chicago, and Boston become industrial giants. Meanwhile, the South remains dependent on plantations and an outdated slave economy. By the late 19th century, the Confederacy begins to lag far behind. Poverty spreads in rural areas, and technology advances slower than in the North. Yet slavery endures, casting a dark shadow over its society. In our history, Gettysburg was the battle that saved the Union. But it was not inevitable. It was a close-run thing, decided by a few pivotal moments and a few key men. Had the outcome been different, had Stonewall Jackson lived, had Ewell seized the moment, America as we know it would not exist. It is a stark reminder that the history we have is not the only history there could have been. And sometimes, the most important battles are won not just on the field, but in the choices made in the fog of war. But, do you think the nation will be reunited before World War I? Or, any other time? Leave your comments here. Thanks for watching. This is History Reimagined.